Stop looking at the ground beneath your feet. It should not exist. You assume solid matter is the default state of the universe. You are wrong. For the vast majority of cosmic history, a world was not just rare, it was a physical violation. If you stepped back into the first era, you would not find a place to stand. You would find a furnace. An omnidirectional scream of energy so dense that atoms were illegal. In this era, the universe was not a garden. It was a machine designed to digest architecture. No planets. No suns. Not even the mercy of a shadow to hide in. There was only the tyranny of light. This is the forensic analysis of how the cosmos broke just enough to let a mistake like Earth exist. Most turn away from this violence. They prefer the lie of a peaceful cosmos. If you have the stomach to witness the forensic truth of your own insignificance, leave a like right now. Mark yourself as a witness before the light returns. To understand why worlds were impossible, you have to understand the violence of connection. In our current, cold era, we take stability for granted. You put your hand on a table, and the table stays there. Its atoms are calm. They are holding hands, locked in a freezing, stable embrace. But in the beginning, stability was the enemy. Imagine a universe that is smaller than it is now, but contains all the energy it will ever possess. Everything is closer together. The pressure is infinite. In this environment, the visual anchor of reality is not a landscape, but a blender operating at the speed of light. Every time a particle tried to slow down, every time a proton tried to capture an electron to build the first, fragile architecture of an atom, the background radiation would slam into it with the force of a train. Connection was illegal. The heat was a living thing. It acted like a frantic, cosmic immune system, hunting down order and tearing it back into chaos. We call this the kinetic tyranny. It was a time when velocity ruled over gravity. Gravity wants to build. It wants to pull dust together to make a rock, pull rocks together to make a world. But heat wants to separate. Heat is the great scatterer. And for the first few 100,000 years, the heat was winning. The universe was a graveyard of potential worlds, ripped apart before they could even cast a shadow. It was a blinding fog where matter was trying to be born, and energy was brutally shoving it back into the void. This hostility was not vague, it was mathematical. In this primordial era, the universe was ruled by a state of matter we call plasma. But plasma is too soft a word. It was a suffocating ocean of supercharged particles, so dense that light itself was trapped. Imagine a room filled with mirrors, where a billion floodlights are turned on simultaneously. The light cannot escape, it just bounces, amplifies, and cooks everything inside. That was the entire cosmos. An opaque wall of fire. It wasn't just bright, it was heavy. The photons were packed so tightly that they exerted physical pressure on every electron they touched. You could not see across the room, because across implies empty space, and space was full. Time itself felt different here. Without stable matter, there were no clocks. There was no decay, only constant, high-velocity collision. A second lasted an eternity of impacts. Gravity is a patient force. It is the architect of stars and planets, but it is weak. It requires stillness. It requires consent. In the face of the early universe's temperature, gravity was helpless. Every time a pocket of gas tried to collapse into a protostar, the internal pressure of the heat would detonate it from the inside out. It was the cycle of abortive creation. This was the photon epoch, a time when light was not a tool for vision, but a physical barrier. You could not see across the universe because the photons were constantly crashing into electrons. It was a fog of war that lasted for 370,000 years. A blindness born of too much light. The universe is trying to hide this history. The algorithm suppresses this kind of darkness to protect the fragile viewers. Verify that you are still receiving this transmission. Check your subscription status now. Do not let the signal fade back into the static. Then, the paradox occurred. The only way for the universe to become real was for it to weaken. We often associate power with creation, but in astrophysics, creation requires a loss of power. The universe had to bleed out its energy. It had to expand. As space stretched, the wavelength of that murderous light stretched with it. The angry, high-frequency gamma rays were pulled into softer X-rays, and then into ultraviolet. The temperature dropped. And for the first time in history, the kinetic tyranny faltered. This is the moment of the Great Thaw. As the heat died down, the subatomic particles slowed just enough for the strong nuclear force to snap them together. Protons captured electrons. The chaotic plasma neutralized into stable hydrogen gas. And suddenly, the fog lifted. The light, no longer trapped by the frantic dance of electrons, was released. It streamed across the cosmos, carrying the image of the newborn universe. We call this the cosmic microwave background, but think of it as the first photograph of a crime scene. It is the transparency of a cooling corpse. It is the afterglow of the violence that almost prevented us from existing. The universe had to grow cold and dark so that matter could finally find a place to rest. But this rest was indistinguishable from death. After the Great Thaw, the universe did not become a garden. It became a tomb. For the next 400 million years, there was no light. None. The initial flash of creation had faded into infrared invisibility, stretching into wavelengths the human eye would never perceive. This was the cosmic dark ages, a period of absolute, suffocating silence. Imagine an ocean of neutral hydrogen gas, heavy, stagnant, and pitch black, stretching for billions of light-years in every direction. There was no sound, no movement, just the waiting. In this darkness, gravity was working in the shadows, moving with the cold precision of an undertaker. Without the interference of heat, it began to pull the gas into massive, invisible pockets, coffins of matter waiting for a spark. But when the light finally returned, it was not the gentle warmth of a yellow sun. The first generation of stars, what we call population 3, were celestial abominations. They were composed of pure primordial gases, growing to sizes that are physically impossible in today's mature universe. They were monsters, hundreds of times more massive than our sun, burning with a violent, blue-white fury. These were not stars as you understand them, they were short-lived gods, consuming their own bodies to keep the darkness at bay. They burned with such intensity that they stripped the electrons off the surrounding gas, reionizing the universe in a bubble of violence. These blue giants were the universe's first and most violent attempt at order, and they ended as they lived, in total destruction. They collapsed under their own impossible weight, triggering hypersupernovas that illuminated the void for the first time. These stars were nuclear accidents, burning in a suicidal panic. This realization is terrifying to most, but liberating to some. Share this evidence with one other person. Do not tell them why. Just watch to see if they break, or if they understand. This violence was not a mistake, it was a necessity. You see, the early universe was sterile. It was too clean, too simple. It had hydrogen and helium, the lightest and most basic building blocks, but nothing else. You cannot build a world out of gas. You cannot build a bone, or a drop of water, or the microchip in your pocket out of pure hydrogen. To create complexity, the universe needed to get dirty. It needed heavy elements, and the only way to forge them was through the extreme pressure of stellar death. The death of those first, monstrous stars was a form of cosmic alchemy. In their final, agonizing seconds, as their cores were crushed into densities that defy logic, they fused atoms into heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, and silicon. But it goes deeper. The gold in your jewelry, the uranium in our weapons, these required even more violence. They required the collision of neutron stars, events so catastrophic they shake the fabric of spacetime itself. We are hoarding the shrapnel of dead stars. When they detonated, they didn't just release energy, they vomited these new elements into the dark. This is a humbling, perhaps terrifying realization. The oxygen currently entering your lungs, the iron in your blood, and the carbon that forms the bridge of your DNA, it is all nuclear waste. The universe had to become a massive graveyard before it could ever become a cradle for a single planet. We are built from the ashes of the first fires. Even with the materials finally in place, the first worlds were not sanctuaries, they were chaotic shooting galleries. In this era, planets did not orbit in the polite, predictable ellipses we see today. They migrated like titans through a fog of debris. Giant gas planets rampaged through young solar systems, their massive gravity swallowing smaller rocky worlds whole or flinging them into the eternal cold of interstellar space, where they wander today as rogue, frozen orphans. It was a time of accretion violence. A planet does not grow through peace, it grows by being hit. It starts as a jagged rock, attracting other rocks, enduring billion-year bombardments that melt the surface over and over again. Consider the formation of our own moon. It wasn't always there. 4.5 billion years ago, a protoplanet the size of Mars, which we call Theia, slammed into the young Earth. The impact was so violent it liquefied the crust of both worlds and sprayed molten rock into orbit. The moon is not a companion, it is a scar. It is the coagulated remains of a planetary murder. Earth itself was a hellscape for its first several hundred million years, a glowing, molten ball of magma screaming into the vacuum. There was no blue water. There was no green life. There was only the red glow of fire and a black, ash-filled sky. The stability we enjoy now, the ground beneath your feet that feels so solid, is a statistical anomaly. It is the temporary calm after a storm that lasted 10 billion years. We are living in a rare, quiet pocket of time, protected only by the slow cooling of the cosmos. So, the next time you look at the night sky, do not see it as a peaceful void. See it for what it truly is, a cooling corpse. The silence you hear is not peace, it is the exhaustion of a universe that has screamed itself out. We are here only because the chaos missed us. Does it bother you to know that your world is just the side effect of a failed cosmic execution? Or is the light enough to make you forget? Answer the final question, are we a miracle or just a mistake? Leave your verdict in the comments. But remember, the machine is still running. The expansion is accelerating. The stars are burning out. The cold is returning. Leave your mark before the screen goes dark.